This is Riot Zone, released in 1992 for the TurboGrafx-CD. Yes, the TurboGrafx-CD, where you played games with CD quality music on a CD. Yeah, I don't have one of those. However, years ago, Riot Zone was added to the library of the now long defunct Wii Shop Virtual Console service, and that's how we're playing today's subject matter. A part of the Westone arcade release Riot City from a year prior, Riot Zone is a side-scrolling beat-em-up similar in vein to Final Fight or Streets of Rage, with the stock story of the damsel in distress needing to be rescued, a villainous mob needing to be taken down, and some streets needing to be cleaned up. Riot Zone gives you two characters to play with, either the mohawked badass Tony or the young blonde stud Hawk, and together they form the... actually, you know what, forget about it, that's way too easy. Anyways, this is a side-scrolling beat-em-up, as mentioned, where you scroll to the right and you beat up a bunch of bad guys with punches, kicks, throws, and the occasional special move that drains your health whenever you hit something with it. You have 5 rounds of play, and then all of this leads to the fierce final battle with the final boss, where you... well, okay, never mind then. Well, that was a bit underwhelming. Okay, fine. The best I could say about Riot Zone is that it's playable, perhaps even competently executed fare. Controls are simple and straightforward, response time is adequate for a game of this ilk, collision detection is mostly solid with some hiccups here and there, and with 5 rounds of moderate length, the game doesn't generally overstay its welcome and can be completed within roughly an hour's time. Options allow for difficulty select, as well as picking the number of continues you have to pad out the experience, as it were. The issue with Riot Zone boils down to the common ailment of tedious gameplay that afflicts many beat-em-ups. Now, some of the better ones tend to spice things up a bit in some form or fashion to make things more palatable, but Riot Zone is content doing the bare minimum. Never mind the fact that it's a one-player only game, a death knell for any game in a genre where the more players the merrier, but there's also no weapons to wield, no swords, knives, or anything of the sort, just your fists and feet. The combat itself is also fairly bare bones. Neither Hawk or Tony have much in terms of variety when it comes to their moveset, as it were, resulting in some bland, slow-paced action. Like I said, for the most part it works, it's playable, but it's not what I would call a fun ride. Graphically, Riot Zone is nothing to write home about. Character designs are either of the stock grunt variety, or usually derivative of other more popular games in the genre. So if you wanted to make a case that your main man Hawk looked like Cody from Final Fight or Axel Stone from Streets of Rage, you wouldn't be far off. There's even a Poison look-alike as the second boss. But the sprites aren't that large and the various background settings are rather dull looking, though it's not all bad. Some stages have some nice parallax scrolling, like this spinning platform thing, and I suppose if there's any real highlight to be had in the visual presentation, it's in the opening cutscene with its amazing English at work. Now that's some good shit, pal. In terms of the audio, because it's a Turbo CD game, it naturally uses Redbook CD audio to provide you with a soundtrack that is distinctly late 80s, early 90s generic rock music. Nothing particularly memorable or anything like that, but I suppose a key selling point for the time for that CD add-on thing was that you could have actual sounding music as opposed to the usual chiptune stuff. Pity they couldn't fork over some bucks for some voiceovers in that opening intro like Capcom did with Final Fight on Sega CD, but whatever. Oh, and sound effects are stock sound effects that ever stock sound effects, or something. TurboGrafx owners didn't have a lot of options in regard to side-scrolling beat-em-ups, and in that regard, Riot Zone kinda sorta fills the niche nicely enough. Yes, it has its fair share of monotony, limited variety, somewhat slow speed, lack of 2-player co-op, and one too many reminders of other games you could be playing right now, but on the flip side, it plays well enough, it's short enough, and it never really craters in performance. In the grander scheme of things, Riot Zone is not a standout title and doesn't do anything that you can't find better elsewhere, but if you just wanted a solid, competent beat-em-up on the Turbo, you could do a hell of a lot worse than Riot Zone.